Hi, welcome to Sugar Free. This is an all signs reading for Mercury retrograde, which starts in Capricorn until the 23rd of December, and the retrograde starts on the 13th of December. So in Capricorn until the 23rd of December, and it then slides back into Sagittarius. So it's quite interesting combination of energies there, because we've got Capricorn, which is ruled by Saturn, all to do with the rules and the structures and the top-down structures of things and the power structures of things, and how the kind of unwritten and written rules of how power is used, enacted and received. So that's what Saturn kind of deals with. And then Jupiter ruling Sagittarius, where the retrograde moves back into on the 23rd of December. Jupiter is about expansion. It's the kind of the joyful forward motion and growth. I mean, Jupiter was the like Jove. That's jovial, so it's joyful. So it's about possibility and expansion. So what I'm going to do is pull 3 cards from this major arcana of the ancient Italian tarot. The first card we're going to pull is the Capricorn energy. So, what do we rewind on from the 13th to the 23rd for that 10-day period? What are we rewinding on and looking at again, or being shown again by circumstances and causes and conditions? What are we being shown again in the context of how power has been wielded and used and abused, basically? This is a healing reading I'm doing here. So that's the first thing we're going to look at. The second thing we're going to look at is the Jupiter phase. So what becomes expanded from the Capricorn phase, and how does it expand? And then in the final column, we're going to look at, with the third of the major arcana from this deck, we're going to look at what's possible to be coming out of the other side of that retrograde, which ends, I believe, on the 1st of January, I think. So I have to check that. That's how the reading is going to work. So ancient Italian tarot here, major arcana of the Rider-Waite here, and the minor arcana of the Rider-Waite here. I'm going to pull one from each of those suits to like flesh out the 3 major arcana I'm going to pull from here. So yeah, I want to look at kind of, in a sense, expansionary healing strategies in the Jupiter bit in the second column for what comes up in the first one. Saturn is often represented as an old man, and old men have seen a lot, and old women. We've seen a lot by this point and digested a lot, and like had to take a lot on in terms of the difficulties of how things play out around the use and abuse of power. Okay, simple as that. So let's have a look at this. 3 major arcana. We've got to think about all the settings wherein power is acted out by one upon the other. We've got to think about all the settings of that. It can be work, it can be family, it can be, any kind of generational tranche of family. Those are the main settings, really, work and family. So let's have a look. We've got Chariot in reverse, thwarted progress. We've got the Tower in reverse, the worst is over. And we've got the Emperor. So we're back in the room, taking charge. How lovely. Okay. Right. Bye. Okay. So something that should have been allowed or permitted or yeah, we are talking about allowed and permitted because we're talking about how power is used here. And I mean, sometimes circumstances hold us back and thwart our progress because Chariot is the card of progress, forward motion, and really like taking the reins, getting hold of the thing, grabbing the bull by the horns and flipping, going for it. And, you know, that takes a certain amount of core strength. And I guess, you know, as we move through the tarot cycle, this is 7, this is pretty early. And in minor arcana terms, this would be like the 2 of Wands or the 2 of Swords. This is actually choosing to move forward because, well, we've made a choice. We made a choice in card number 6, which was the Lover's choice. We've made the choice and we've set the wheels in motion and we're moving forward. And yeah, the core strength and the guts it takes to drive that chariot, especially when we've got the kind of potentially wild card factors of those 2 individual horses, which might have their own ideas about which way they want to go in. You know, you've got to manage it. You've got to manage that forward motion. And that's what the charioteer does by various means. But yeah, sometimes it's circumstances that seems to block that or hold that back. But if you really look at it, somewhere in those circumstances, someone has behaved in such a way that has been contributory to the circumstances that are holding you back. And I think somehow there's a sort of a fit and a start, like full start here in this chariot in the reverse. Because the choices, but you know, we know what we want to do. We know what direction we want to go in, and we're ready to get into that. Like I don't know, it's got a name, isn't it? That bucket thing that he's standing in. I'm sure it's not called a bucket. And take it forward. But it's nipped in the bud. Progress nipped in the bud. And we've got to see why that has happened. I'm not getting off this at all, that this is self-inflicted. But when things are nipped in the bud enough, it's very sad, you know, but if you go on nipping the buds off a plant, it's going to do something to it, you know, it's going to kind of block it or drain it somehow. It's not a natural thing to do. But the point I'm trying to make here is that the thing that is having the buds nipped off it will, after a while, stop putting them out. And that's the tragedy of it. You know, when our flourishing and our like I think it's in Thailand. I think it's Thailand or Malaysia. There's a word which the word samangat. And I learned that from Richard Grannon, Spartan Life Coach. This word samangat means this it is this kind of chariot energy. It's this solar plexus, like grabbing life and having like a sort of an appetite for growth and progress. And, you know, if growth and progress is blocked or thwarted enough times, the thing that has the appetite for that, you know, the person, the self that has the appetite for that growth and progress, kind of learns that it's pointless to have it. But the trouble is the samangat never actually goes away. It just gets kind of turned down and shoved off to one side. because it's a pointless thing, but it's still there and it's still alive. And that's why it's painful, to find oneself in a position where getting what we want, moving towards what we want, is simply because we will it. So, it's painful when that is blocked, and its continued presence is almost sort of annoying, because if your head has given up on the idea of like moving towards what you want because your motivation's drained by having like the buds nipped off you again and again and again, intellectually it's like, well, what's the bloody point? But your gut keeps wanting it. And it's that kind of juxtaposition of having somewhat sort of given up, and at the same time somewhere down in your gut it's like, no, 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 I do want it, I do want it. That is uncomfortable. That becomes uncomfortable, and that's how things can get sort of stunted. So that's what we're coming in with. Let's start clarifying. Okay. Right, I think it doesn't matter whether it's in the reverse. I'm not going to take reversals on this. I might take reversals when we get to this one. Anyway, we'll see. This is to do with fairness, and this, or lack thereof, seeing as I was equivocal, because it did actually come out in the reverse. This is about sort of natural justice. And, it is an unnatural thing to do, to go back to a plant. I mean, why would you have a plant unless, you loved the fact that it grows? And yet every time you see a bud on it, I'm not talking to you necessarily, dear viewer, dear listener, I just can't be bothered to say one. Every time one sees a bud on that plant, it's like, oh, better nip that off. And it's gone. Like, that is a bit of a weird thing to do, isn't it? I mean, why don't you just like go and like throw the plant over someone's fence into their garden and let it grow naturally? Why would you have it and block it? It's sort of perverse. And I mean, definitely a misuse of that is definitely a misuse of resources. Like, why have something that's growing and then block it again and again and again? It's unfair. The flipping plant wants to grow. The chariot energy here that wants to expand, that wants to move forward, that wants to kind of manifest the inner vision that is energized by that solar plexus energy, that samanga. It's a natural thing. Children want to grow up. Plants want to grow. It wants to. Shakti moves because she wants to. And to sort of misuse your power, because I mean he's got the power here. I mean, he's not interested in who he's giving that money to. It doesn't bother him. It's just one faceless beggar or another. That sounds rather rude, doesn't it? But he's not bothered, but they are. When they see him, when those beggars see him walk into the town square with his bag of wonga, like they sit up like flipping meerkats who've just spotted a bloody eagle like 5 miles away in the sky or wherever. But he walks into the square, when he sees them, he just sees this amorphous blob. He's not giving it to that one in the yellow because he likes him, because he's his pal. He don't care who he gives it to. He's giving it for his own reasons. This nipping in the bud energy here was not personal. All right, this nipper, the nipper in the bud, the nipper of the bud sounds like the catcher in the rye, doesn't it? Is not bothered who they do it to. It's not about the beggar, it's about the merchant. Now, I might come back to this because there's something else I might want to say about this. It's unnatural and it's unfair to block growth like that. There's something a bit, there's something a bit sort of perverse about it, but it 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 wasn't personal. The one nipping the buds off the plants would do it to any plant. It's not just this one particular plant, and that's their tragedy. That's their tragedy, because I tell you, no one would behave like that. No one blocks other people unless they feel blocked themselves. People who are easy and peaceful in their energy don't try to block other people. There's no reason to. So it's not about you, the plant, having had all the buds nipped off you because you're you. It's just because you're there, sadly. Like I said, one needy beggar or another. Don't make no difference to him. All he's interested in is being seen to be fair. But, backing up this chariot in the reverse, and the fact that this did come out in the reverse, it's an ungenerous spirit. Because again, people whose energy is easy and peaceful have a shitload of space to really help other people feel good. But that's not present here. So yeah, there's a kind of it's to do with natural justice. And the natural justice for the plant is that it gets to grow. That's what's gone wrong here. That's the nature of it. Yeah, and this has been a burden. It's been a burden, 10 of Wands. And it's a burden that was put on at a time where we were not in a position to say, don't put that burden on me, it's not mine. So the nipper of the buds has sort of passed over to the nipped the burden of whatever it was that made them behave in that nippy sort of way in the first place. It's proliferated. And that also is, that won't necessarily in and of itself block forward progress, but it certainly will make forward progress harder when you're carrying all that as well. It is very unjust, but again, it's not personal. And the proliferation energy I'm getting off this 10 of Wands today also extends to, there will never be enough mugs to carry the wands, because, when 10 wands are offloaded onto some mug by this kind of, this kind of perverse enjoyment in blocking progress for others because the opportunity is there to do it. No matter how many of these wands are offloaded, there will always be more. They just keep coming. Because this kind of, perversion of the course of justice, perverting the course of justice. There you go, like pushing it off down some weird stunted kind of route here. That behaving in that way creates and then is indicative of a kind of drainage, where the energy just drains out and drains out. There's no bottom to it. It's not defined. It's not limited. It's like, as I understand it, and I hope this won't trigger anyone, but it's like how I understand the mechanism, the basic mechanism of what goes wrong in cells in the context of cancer. It's like the cell division, the division, just the limits on it that naturally exist in a non-cancerous cell. It's something called the Hayflick limit, I guess, discovered by somebody called Hayflick. All cells have a natural kind of stopping point beyond which it will become dangerous to the wider organism for that cell to go on proliferating. But those limits aren't there in cells that have become cancerous. And they just go on and on and on and on and sort of take over. And that's kind of what I'm seeing here. But again, the key thing is the impersonal nature of this. I mean, you know, it might enact itself in different ways for different people, but like I said, you know, the buds aren't nipped off because it's that plant, but this one's allowed to grow in a natural and joyful way. No, it's all of them. It's not personal. It's fucking nothing to do with you, this stuff. And yet it's there. And this is the upshot. This is the main energy. Blocked progress. Let's keep going. Ace of Swords, yeah, and don't you know it? You flipping know it. It's very, very simple. And it's about getting down with the Ace of Swords here to first principles. And this is kind of the way out of this. And my eye is drawn when I say that to this tower in reverse. This is why it's in reverse, mate. Is getting down to the first principles of this. And the most important element here is the impersonal nature of, you know, the fact it's not you. It's not you. It is them. It is. They are in charge of themselves, whether they know it or not, whether they like it or not, you know, whether they like spend hours like abusing their creativity to create narratives wherein it's none of it is their fault. And that's how they go on offloading these flipping wands here. And there's a kind of unendingness to it, which funnily enough equates to zero bloody change. But it's not because of you. If it wasn't you, it would be somebody else who's getting saddled with all this shit. Because like I said, you know, the dispenser of that power don't give a bloody monkeys who it is. Just so long as it's someone who is in a position to be the grateful recipient of his generosity. He don't care. He don't care about the names of those beggars, how they ended up like that, what they, you know, what they might or might not do with the money, you know, what's their history, have they got any family, blah, blah, blah. He don't give a shit. It's just, oh, good, beggar. Now I can show the world and myself how generous I am. It's kind of exploitative, but this is where I'm going to talk about this other little bit that I wanted to talk about. Look at that little rip down there. Now, underneath that is a red cloak, just like his. I always find that really interesting. I'll use these cards for years before I notice that. So This is you, all right? This is you. Underneath the impoverishment is exactly the same power as this one, but he doesn't realize that. And that is in evidence here in this Ace of Swords, because it's so bloody clear. Like, boiling it down to the first principles, it's their shit, not yours. Bottom line, that's the end of it. That's the end of it. And so, your job is relatively minor. Is simply to sort of clear up some of the mess that it's made, and have the guts to put those bloody ones down. They ain't yours, man. Whip off that sackcloth and ashes, and stride off in your red cloak. I'd like to see his face, mate, his face there. That'd be funny, wouldn't it? You go, oh, aren't you aren't you from the guilds? suddenly, he will give a shit who this beggar is. He'll want to know the name. He'll want to know the line of business. He'll want to know what the family connections are. He'll want to know what the lands and the properties are. Oh, it's going to matter then. That's your way forward. Whip off that bloody cloak. Show your power. I mean, your power is no greater or lesser than anybody else's. We're all imbued with the same energy, the same power. We just have different kind of filters set up inside ourselves through causes and conditions that filter the expression of that power, and for the incoming as well. But it's ours. It's not superhuman and it's not super shit, but it's ours. Snicker snack. I just got a vision of this sword just like going like, 5 or however many, 5 swift cuts, just like slicing that potato sack off matey's back. Maybe you're a little bit afraid that if you put these ones down, you're going to float, or it's going to feel like you're floating. You might not know, if you've been carrying wands for this nipper of the buds for a long time, are basically taking responsibility for their actions. Okay. Bottom line, if you've been doing that for a long time, it can feel a bit like, whoa, if you think about just going, hold on a bloody minute, I'm being played here. This is not my problem. I mean, the effects of it are mine to deal with. The effects of it on me are mine to deal with. But I am not the source of this problem. Snicker snack. Then you can decouple, you see, and own your shit and let them own their shit. Ah, look at that. 6 of Cups. How beautiful. And doing that, what I just described there, and standing in your power, such as it is. And like I say, I mean, there's a lot of videos here on YouTube that will sort of set out, variously questionable narratives as to why, your kind of power, and they, putting it out so sort of like faceless, however many people on YouTube are somehow special. I mean, you're special in that you're unique, but you're no stronger or weaker than anybody else. And in that is a kind of fairness and generosity of spirit, generosity of heart here. and becoming clear, being clear on whose problem this is, who is at the source of this blockage. Because we all know deep down, it's just having the courage to put the wands down and sort of feel like we're floating off for a little while and look around onto a new landscape, because you can't look around at anything while you're carrying 10 wands for somebody else. You can't. But there's something very, very profound in this Six of Cups here, because once you decouple your shit from their shit, like it becomes clear that the reason they've been like creating all these wands that they're sort of like putting out for other people to carry, and the reason they've been kind of, oh, what's the word? There's something really banal. I've got that phrase, the banality of evil, coming into my mind. There's something really sort of quietly brutish, reptilian about what's going on here in the Six of Pentacles. The way that the merchant kind of uses these people in a weaker position to experience himself being fair and being generous. I mean, you know, what good would he do? Any good with the money if there weren't any beggars? Like, what would he do? How would he confirm to himself and the world that he's a good, generous person if there weren't beggars around to give to? And this is how the power is very kind of, is double-sided, and we're going to look a bit more at that as we go along. But like, you've got the rich and the poor, and that's what we see here, you know, the strong and the weak. I'm just thinking of a quote from a French mystical philosopher from the early part of the 20th century, Simone Weil. And she talks about the strong and the weak. And she says, there are the strong and there are the weak. Some are strong and some are weak, she says. And, you know, she's not making moral judgments. She's being very sort of clinical. And it's a translation, so, you know, from the French. But she says, there are the strong and the weak. She says, and the worst thing you can do is mistake one for the other. The most unjust thing you can do to both groups, the strong and the weak, is to get them mixed up. You know, because viewing the strong as weak kind of, well, they're both just like incorrect. And it creates problems for both groups when they are viewed as the opposite. And what I'm really getting here is this kind of undercurrent of dependence that this merchant has on these paupers, that the strong has upon the weak, that the rich have upon the poor. Because how would the rich know they were rich unless poor people existed? Sorry, I know it's really, I shouldn't be laughing about it, but you know, when you look at it in those terms, you see how the powerful rely on the powerless in order to go on experiencing themselves as powerful. You know, if everyone had the best, it wouldn't be the best, would it? It's only the best when it's in comparison. And somehow in this decoupling here, in this putting down of these wands and this assigning your shit to yourself and their shit to them, somehow that sort of, that in itself brings an awareness with it that this powerful agent here that nipped all the buds off is far weaker than the plant. Because if you just leave the plant and basically give it what it needs to be alive, i.e. a bit of water, it will grow. It won't grow because it needs to. It will grow because that's just what it does. And that is Shakti. It just does. But the person nipping off the buds kind of can't stop themselves. There's a neediness there. There's a compulsion there. You know, if the plant wasn't there to have the buds nipped off it, it would go and start, I don't know, picking old paint off the door frames or something. It's like this kind of pent up, blocked energy. It's in them. And that is worthy of your compassion and your generosity of spirit. And in putting down those wands and creating a clear separation between your shit and their shit, the space opens up, like I was saying, about easy, peaceful energy, having the room to be kind, because that's what we see here. It's very powerful, very, very powerful. Right, let's look at this, because I'm really heartened by this. Yeah, look at that. Queen of Pentacles. All good. All good in the garden. Okay. All good in the garden. I think I wonder whether this Tower in reverse might be a bit of sort of over kind of focus and something to do with a misassigned sense of responsibility. Again, back to this 10 of Wands. Because the thing about the Tower, the change that happens, the sort of all shuddering, sudden change that happens in the Tower is not designed to happen by any person. So it is without agency. It's without human agency. It's the shit happens card. No one did anything to make this happen. And that, I think, well, that's the key to this Jupiterian phase that we're coming into now, because this is all about how natural law was perverted, okay? And being clear about who did that. But the generosity of spirit that comes with this clear assignment of responsibility also brings with it the compassion to understand that only someone who'd been picked at and damaged, I've got the French word abîmé, sort of like soiled somehow, marred or spoiled in some way. That only someone who had been through something shit would go around like pulling wings off flies. You know what I mean? She's like enacting this pain. And that, understanding that and cultivating compassion, because the space opens up for it, you see. And that can only be a healing thing, to cultivate compassion for the nipper of the buds. And yeah, another thing that happens when you decouple in this way and you assign responsibility where it actually belongs, is, oh God, it keeps coming and keeps going back. Yeah, the anger goes because you are no longer blaming them for your shit. Like, hold them responsible for their shit because they are responsible for it. But we can only be angry with them when we feel they have some kind of control over our shit. And that anger goes when you make this separation of the shit. Okay. And this Tower in reverse is to do with coming to an understanding in this Jupiterian energy of this Mercury retrograde that you are actually like in a much, much better position than you maybe thought you were. That somehow this has brought like great riches and oh, I don't know, I'm just getting a kind of velvet and beautiful like spun gold bloody braid and shit. It's beautiful in this lovely garden. But look, I mean, any buds that have been nipped there have been nipped judiciously, gently, with the intention to create beauty. And what a lovely result when we become clear about where the lines of responsibility lie. Okay, I'll keep going. Three of Wands. Wow, what was I talking about? The two of the Three of Wands here with this Chariot energy. The world really, really is your oyster. I mean, huh. If we've gone from the 10 to the 3, that means we've dropped 7. And the 7 of Wands is all that defensiveness and kind of, you know, walking around in a bloody suit of armor when you don't need to. It's just ridiculous. We've shed that. Like fighting an unnecessary sort of imagining or kind of, yeah, investing in the whole idea of potential enmity and conflict and sort of like pushing it away and pushing it away and pushing it away. And it's like defending feeling like we've got to defend ourselves. That's gone. It's gone. And the whole world opens up in front of us and is genuinely our oysters. Absolutely beautiful. But it all rests on this understanding and yeah, this understanding of where responsibility lies for things and whose wands those are. And in the absence of this decoupling action here of the Ace of Swords and becoming clear on who shit is whose, in the absence of that decoupling, we end up creating a shitload of wands that we can't carry because we can't be responsible for ourselves if we are assigning responsibility for ourselves to somebody else because we've got whose shit is whose all mixed up. We just end up stumbling around with that. Whereas being clear on where the lines of responsibility lies for this person's karma and this person's karma, being clear on that we are all the generators of our own karma, that suddenly opens up a whole heap of space in which to become active in the world. How wonderful. 5 of Swords. Ooh, that's thrown me a little bit. I'm not going to lie. Let's get the Cup card and see what we can do about this. 9 of Cups. Yeah, okay. Well, look, we have to be ready in this energy to become judicious and perhaps guarded in what we say, how we communicate. And God, you know what I'm saying in this today? I've never seen this before in the 5 of Swords. I'm seeing the keeping of secrets. And for the benefit of others. What a wacky thing to get off the 5 of Swords. Today, I'm seeing this man collecting these swords because he wants to protect the others there, like just bent over with trauma. He wants to protect them from possibly being seen to have committed war crimes. Sorry, it's a very long-winded intuitive download. That's why he's picking up those swords. This is keeping Sturm to protect others. Because the thing is, once you see whose shit is whose, and that's what becomes clear in this this Capricorn phase of the Mercury retrograde. Real clarity of that. Something that might like feel necessary, and it might in practical terms be necessary, but in purely emotional terms, there might be a sort of an urge to communicate this, to basically call up this person who's been putting this bloody shitload of wands on you and like playing silly buggers with their power here, and just kind of using you as a kind of little thing to like go with, like nipping a bud off a plant. Just because they can, and they're sort of in the habit, and it gives them a little like, it can be tempting, to just call them up and say, you treat me like a whatever, like F you. But what we have to understand is that that is rooted in anger. And if it's rooted in anger, that means this sword has not finished the job or done a complete job, that there's further to go, and that there is still a sort of a vestige of that moth-eaten blue cloak there. There's still a vestige of it there. There's still some wands being carried here. Some of the 7 that we've ditched in order to get here is still on us, and we're still blaming, basically. We're still blaming. When you've truly stopped blaming someone, you don't need to say anything to them about it. You absolutely don't, when you've truly stopped blaming someone else for your shit. Because it works in both directions, this like putting each other's shit on each other's shoulders. It works in both directions. Nothing need be said. Nothing need be said, because 9 of Cups here, this is emotional kind of capacity and space. And, he can reach up and take any of these cups that he wants in any order that he wants. He has plenty. I'm not going to quote Romeo and Juliet again. He's got plenty, he's good, and he's kind of got it in order behind him, and he can face the world with confidence, with his feet on the ground. And this is about the individual and the emotional richness, the emotional wealth that comes with this decoupling process. And as I said here in the 6 of Cups, there is so much more to give when you are not kind of clagged up and tied up and bound by lines of fake responsibility for each other's shit. It's beautiful, beautiful spaciousness of the heart here. Right, and the Emperor. So this is the Capricorn bit, like where the power's been like warped, and some of the upshots of that. This is the Jupiterian bit. And it's interesting because I think it's interesting. My interpretation of 5 of Swords here is sort of very kind of counterintuitive as a Jupiterian energy. But I mean, I found that keeping certainly confidentiality for people I mean, I wouldn't keep like a pernicious, dangerous, or an unlawful, a secret about anything unlawful. But, you know, keep being able to keep my mouth shut about other people's business is a really it's something I really enjoy doing. I really do. I enjoy being trustworthy in that way. You know, sometimes I F up because I'm weak and it's just like juicy. But that's usually because somebody's been putting like 10 ones on me and I've got mixed up about whose fault it is. But anyway, blah, blah, blah. Can't remember why I started going on about that. Emperor. Yes, it's expansionary. It's growth. Because when somebody can trust you to keep your gob shut and not chat their business, then, you know, things can grow between you. And there is great emotional wealth to be experienced in that. Right, Emperor. Ace of Pentacles. Okay, by authority of the Emperor, this Page of Pentacles here is able to make the offer, to create an opportunity, or certainly to kind of herald, announce, and bring an opportunity, and it's authorized here. I mean, this is like Zeus, Jove, Jupiter. This whole process here brings in opportunity. But this card was in the same position in the last reading I put up, but it was clarifying the Wheel of Fortune here. And I said, you know, don't miss it. You know, it might come in a kind of unfanfared sort of way. And it's a bit like that, but I guess that's because it's a page as well. It's like a youthful energy, but you will spot it. You will spot it. And the light shining off this pentacle has an integrity born of the simple authority that it is what it is. It is what it is. That's what I'm getting off this Emperor now. You know, why? Because because and you know, like I was saying, that we had the King of Swords over in the previous reading. There's no negotiation required here. It's very interesting. This is the kind of combination of these two energies, of this Saturnian energy and this Jovian energy. They come together here because this is someone who exercises authority with wisdom, and the wisdom balanced with the compassion that comes with the separation of powers between you and another. Even if this other, and this metaphor I keep doing about nipping things in the bud, has come back again and again and again and nipped things in the bud for you. Taking responsibility for that and feeling like maybe you somehow deserved that is a mistake. All right. They are responsible for their actions. And with that clarity comes this amazing authority, as I say, tempered by compassion. Because when you see the actions of another simply as their choice and nothing kind of sourced in you, as I said, it's not personal. It's just this amorphous blob of people who can be kind of exploited for narcissistic reasons here in the Six of Pentacles. It's like, look how generous I am. Look what a good person I am. That kind of claggy sort of nature has no compassion to it. And seeing the other person as the source of their own, like, perversion of natural law, they've done that. But how on earth would somebody have ended up behaving like that unless it had been done to them? And there's the generational karma, and there's the compassion, like that has room to flourish. When this separation is made, the emotional wealth flows in, and we remove that grey sack and stand up resplendent in our red cloak and take authority over our lives with wisdom born of compassion. And then the light that shines off, that glints off that pentacle, is pure, pure, pure. And it has the authority of reality to it. It's absolutely beautiful. Queen of Wands. Well, I wouldn't say sitting pretty, but sitting majestic, man. It's Shakti. Again, 2 queens on the table. Complete stability in authority. This is like the minor arcana of the Empress for me today. I mean, normally I see that in the Queen of Pentacles, but it didn't come to my mind at all when I was talking about her. But it did straight away when I pulled her, and I thought, oh no, that's supposed to be the Queen of Pentacles. No, today it's the Queen of Wands, the Empress, pure Shakti. Again, it is what it is, what it is. The plant will grow. That's it. You know, that, okay, this person coming along nipping all the buds off, that's willed by a hurt human. But the action of the plant is simply to grow. And that has its own authority as well. This is fantastic. 3 of Swords, not the first time it's come up in this position. And the 3 of Cups. With the heartbreak comes the capacity to connect. Okay, because this decoupling also has a very heartbreaking side to it. When you look at someone and see how broken they are, how unhappy they are, how damaged they are, that they have become the type of person who gets a hit of dopamine when they break a bud off a stem. It's so sad. It is heartbreaking. And that is part of the courage. Being able to face that is part of the courage it takes to put down the 10 wands and place ownership where it belongs. It is hard, but it opens up, and it is possible. I think the only way to this beautiful connection of this flourishing of very positive connection between equals. And funnily enough, this decoupling process, like my shit, your shit, you know, through this whole thing of sort of having to face the heartbreak of it and putting down those wands. And I mean, you know, it's not for nothing that this is the Tower here. The Tower is dramatic. It is dramatic, but this is done. This is done. And whatever was said about who did the silly rain dance that made that bolt of lightning come out of the sky, that didn't happen. No one made this happen. And this kind of unburdening of responsibility and this putting down of this 10 wands creates the conditions for it to become clear that my shit, their shit, or your shit, their shit, we've all got it. End of. And that, again, coupled with this simple, natural emotional justice here of just generosity of spirit and this wonderful wealth, then we can go out and like start flipping spending it on each other. Beautiful. Right. Listen, I've rambled on long enough. I'm going to leave that there. A beautiful way to start the new year. Like, it's bittersweet, but it's nice. Really, really nice. Right, I'm going to leave that there. Thank you so much for watching, dear viewer, dear listener. Bye-bye.